Welcome back to Get a Grip on Lighting. I'm here, Michael Colligan with Greg Eric. And you know, Greg, we have a very special guest today. Matt Honson, president of Nailed. He also works for Thayer Lighting. I think it's in Illinois, isn't it, Matt? Illinois, you're out of? He's out of
That's right.
Illinois.
Yep. Loves Park,
And
Illinois.
yeah, we're going to start talking a little bit about what Nailed's doing these days, Greg. But before we go there, we got to talk about the Big Easy, KeystoneTech.com. That's KeystoneTech.com.
Hey, they're making it easy to control light fixtures with their smart loop system and something unique. I know I've talked about it before, how you can put an individual sensor on each fixture, but they've redesigned their fixtures too and their kits to actually snap it in a lot easier than wiring in the old smart loop. So now you can just plug it right in. Anybody can do that. And they're going to do, instead of battery operated switches, I shouldn't say instead, they still have battery operated switches, but they're going to now have a line voltage option. So you can keep it hardwired at the switch, but then it controls wirelessly any fixture with smart loop. So they keep advancing it, getting it better, keep making it easier. That's what Keystone's all about.
Go to KeystoneTech.com. Greg, when's our convention for Nailed?
September
September
22nd through the 24th.
22nd through the 24th in beautiful St. Paul, Minnesota. Easy to get to, fun to be at, especially that time of year, September. It's going to be a boat cruise, lots of great stuff. We're going to talk about AI and distribution. We're going to be talking about circular economy issues, blah, 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 blah. Before we get to Matt, though, Greg, the final point on that is if you're a lighting distributor and you have light bulbs in a warehouse, you got to join NAIL, buddy. You got to be in the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Nail.org. Matt Hodson, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
So you've had an active presidency, man. There's a lot going on. Let's start first with the education. We got two things coming out next. Right now we're recording. It's June the 10th, June the 11th, and we have our controls course at the Dallas Market Center next week in person, hands-on controls. Tell me a little bit about, from a board perspective, how that came about.
Well, you have to start from, the point of our organization is to help distributors. And we want to help in any way possible. We want to train. We want to make your employees um, just better for you right off the bat. We want the best for the distributor. And so from there, we had to think, well, what's the best way that we can help? What's the best way that we can train? What's the best way that we can um, make your employees better from higher? And so that's kind of where we started from.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like that you've brought to the table, more so than maybe any other president, and I can say that I've been involved since, what's my plaque say? Well, I don't know when I was a president, 2013, something like that. Um, but So I've been actively involved with knowing who everybody is and kind of what the goal is. But what you brought is, and you mentioned it there, is the like employees too. A lot of times people look at NAILed or look at associations
Mm.
and say, "Hey, it's a business owner," And then I've even had somebody that's close to us that said, well, I can't go, so I'm not going to send anybody." I'm like, no, that's not what it's about anymore. It's not about just business owners getting together. It's about the people that work there. It's about the employees. It's about everybody as a whole getting better. It's not just the owners that need to take this or need to be a part of NAILed. It's everybody in the association or in the organization that is part of NAILed.
And Matt's one of maybe the third or fourth president that has been an employee, not the owner of the company. So Matt, what's it like being like in the employee side? Do you have to discuss your board work with your boss and clear it with your, when you're taking all this time to volunteer your time to help out Nail? It probably a little bit of a bigger commitment than you thought going in. Um, what's it like from the employee side? Describe it to us.
Yeah, I do. I do have to talk to the president of our company and clear it with her. And fortunately, she is a huge supporter of Nailed. She's been a supporter of Nailed for as long as I've been a part of the company, which is 13 years. And so she's like, "Yeah, do it. Be a part of it." We've had so many. It's been a very beneficial relationship being with Nailed as a company. We've found amazing manufacturers. You talked about Keystone earlier. We found Keystone through Nailed, through the Nailed conventions, and they've been such an awesome um, manufacturer and good relationship for us. And so she just thinks Nailed is fantastic, but I really love it because, me and some of my other coworkers, we're the ones with the feet on the ground. Not that presidents don't have their feet on the ground sometimes, but sometimes they don't. And so I think it's good to have representation from employees, people who are actually out in the market. And sometimes the president isn't that person. And so I think
Mm.
it's really cool that Nailed has opened it up for that. I didn't feel qualified when I first joined the Nailed board, and was encouraged to by Erin from Nailed. And she's like, no, I think you should apply. And it's been a fantastic experience so far.
It's interesting. What has there been ancillary benefits? So you're volunteering your time. You're reading letters. You're approving things. You're sorting out disputes, dispute resolution. You didn't know that was part of the portfolio. But has there been benefits to being on the Nailed board for you in your career or for Thayer Lighting?
Yeah, 100%. I think it gives, the titles that I've had have given sort of cachet, and it gives you sort of a authority, really, because people think, oh, maybe this guy knows more than your average Joe who hasn't been a part of this pretty big association. And so I think it's been it's been nice to say that, hey, I've been a part of the Nailed board, and we have our feet to the ground, we have our ear to the ground, we know what's going on, and what we're offering you is the best of the best. And we have absolutely the best knowledge possible, and it's largely in part to being part of Nailed and being part of the board.
Yeah, and I feel that same way too. And it brings you, we're relatively smaller companies. I'm not Thayer maybe is as well, but Premier Lighting, Atlas
Hmm.
Lighting, but as a whole, we're a monster. Because of all the knowledge, like you said, and we've all got everybody's opinions and their own experiences and their own markets, but you bring it together, and that covers a lot more than you could do on your own. So, very big part of it. Mike, you mentioned at the beginning kind of the two education courses. The other one
Yes.
is
The Darkness Restoration 1. So we have our lighting specialist, Darkness Restoration 1. I do believe it's the only lighting industry course it's coming out. It's in beta right now. We just putting the final touches on it for some Nailed members to try out. We're going to run it on Nailed members first, and then we're going to open up to the public. But you've been on this board for a long time, and we've been talking about this educational program since you joined 3-4 years ago, and now
Hmm.
we're finally launching it. What's it like when you see how the lighting industry interacts with Nailed? How's that from a board member's perspective when we bring you this organization is saying this organization is saying that?
So you're asking, what is it like?
So
Can you rephrase that?
I'll
Sorry.
refresh you. So we were in a partnership early on with the educational program. I don't know if you remember that,
Yeah,
and that
definitely.
fell
Yeah.
apart. And we had put together a whole curriculum for the program. So we're like 4 years behind. We wanted to put it out in 2021, 2022, and now we're late. And it always seems to me like if I was on the board, I'd be like, why does Nailed always seem to be leading these issues? It doesn't seem, and sometimes, Greg, you correct me if I'm what I'm talking about here. It seems like Nailed is flexing that kind of authority that it has that we haven't done in the past. And I'm just wondering what it's like from a board member perspective. Do you look at it like should Nailed be doing this, or do you think that Nailed is totally appropriate to be taking these kinds of steps?
I think Nailed is totally appropriate to be taking these steps because we are we don't have to. We don't have to do that. But who's going to? If we're not going to, who's going to do it? And we're, like you said, like Greg said earlier, we're a bunch of small companies, but together we're big. Together we have influence. We have 60 distributors currently, um, growing, and together, I mean, yeah, you take Thayer Lighting, you take all these different companies, and you don't have much influence against the big hitters, the big boys, and the people who can take advantage of others. But together, I don't know. I don't know who would if we didn't.
Hmm.
And I think it's very important that we do.
Yeah, you're right. And we are, I think, closer to 90 distributors, but that, just to give you,
Sorry.
some
Sorry
midpoint.
about
That's
that.
okay. Yeah, no, it's just a number.
Old
But
info.
yeah, yeah, and it keeps growing. There's people interested, and I think a large part of it is because we're doing this. We're doing more than just talking about it. We're actually taking action, and that's something that you see. What I had seen historically is, let's just all talk about it, and then everybody forgets. You know, but it's talk and do, and keep continuing and moving forward. So yeah, I feel that that's a good thing. Now we have our convention coming up. You mentioned. What was your first one, Matt? Your first convention? Recall what year?
My first convention was only what, 4 years ago in Dallas.
Okay,
After the
In Dallas
pandemic.
4 years. Yeah, yeah,
first
that
one we
was my
did in
first
Dallas.
one.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and how do you feel about the importance of convention versus, is it something you think we need to have as an association or group it together?
I love it. I love it. For one, you get like you get the new. You get to know like what's coming out from the manufacturers, and that's really cool. You get it before everybody else. And then second, um, you learn tips and tricks from other distributors. And we're in a very niche market. There's not a lot of lighting distributors out there, and so you can rub shoulders with people who are doing the same thing you're doing and say, hey, what's working for you? What brands do you like? What's your strategy on this or that or the other? And you're actually, you're able to have casual conversations over meals, over drinks, and it's been awesome to really kind of align your strategy to do better for your company. So it's incredibly beneficial, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think getting that togetherness, because you can try to do it by a Zoom call or whatever, but you need all that, you need that time, and even that downtime. Where you're like, what are you gonna do? That's when you learn the most. It's like
Oh
when you
yeah.
really get in with somebody personally, and then it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever at night. You're talking through things and
3 in the morning.
learn
Yep.
3 in the morning.
Well, most of us aren't competitors because we're so far away.
Hmm.
Michael's in Canada, I'm in Illinois. Um, I'm talking to people in Oregon. I'm talking to distributors all over the place. So there's no threat. Well, if I share some things with Matt from Thayer Lighting Solutions or Thayer Energy Solutions now in Loves Park, Illinois, he's not gonna use that against me. So
Right.
it's awesome.
And
Yeah.
even in the same market, you hear people say like there's enough business out. You can have you don't nobody shares their trade secrets. You know what I mean? But there's always like best practices that we're sharing back and forth with one another. Different things, and different people go to market in a different way, and incentive programs are different in different markets. So everybody's always talking about all sorts of different things in Nailed. Um, the lighting industry before you joined Nailed, Matt, if you go back prior to LED, Greg, there was a hierarchy in the industry, and it seemed to me that like Nailed was at the bottom of that hierarchy. People would say, "Well, they're just distributors. They don't really know anything about lighting." And the IES was like a umbrella organization over top of that um, grouping of different types of lighting associations and organizations. I feel like it's totally different now. I feel like Nailed is one of the top lighting associations out there, and I think we have the most to give and share with the industry and with the general public. You've seen that evolve on your time on the board. What are some of the things that you've done that, as the president, that's maybe a little bit more controversial?
Well, I think we're trying to get some answers for some questionable practices that have been happening for a long time. And how specific do you want me to get?
You can. I mean, you don't have to say any names, but you can talk maybe about accreditation agencies and perhaps circular economy and extended producer responsibility. Some of those topics that we've been discussing on the board and the different committees. So you got Sean, who's in charge of the Circular Economy / Extended Producer Responsibility Committee, Sean Valera to Lamb Sales in Florida. And you got Devin Wall, who is the chairman of the Accreditation Agency Advisory Committee that you've been running. And your name's come up in those circles a couple times with some people. And I think they should answer our questions. Don't you, Matt?
I do. I do. You know, if they want to be taken seriously by our industry, because to be honest with you, sometimes they're not. We talk. There's criticisms all over the internet, and and if they're legit and they should be in this space, then we want some transparency. We want to know why, and because from a bird's point of view, it looks like some of these costs for different accreditations are excessive. It seems like the barrier to entry is excessive. There's not a lot of transparency as far as where the money is going, um, and there seems to be some shady practices that we as distributors would like some clarity on. And we're open-minded. You know, if you say, hey, here's where it's going, we are happy to say, oh, okay, you know, we'll change our opinion on things, but we would like to have some answers.
Yeah, and I
I
think it was
think
well put.
yeah, I was gonna say everyone wants it. You know, distributors for sure, but like manufacturers are the ones that are spending all the
Mm,
money. And
true.
like they
Yep.
just don't have that representation of all of them because they kind of compete. And they don't really have an organization. So that's what Nail's trying to do is like get answers for the industry. It's not only about us. It's about making it better, making it right. And right now it doesn't always feel that way.
I think one of the things that I think needs to be acknowledged by the lighting industry, and I think perhaps as we move forward and we get some questions answered, is that I think there's certain product labeling companies, DLC's one, that need to admit that lumens per watt was a disaster for the lighting industry, Greg. Like
Yeah.
that single soul metric that they pursued and forced and jammed down the throats of everybody through their accreditation agency and their stranglehold on the utility rebate programs, which they brag about on their website, 75% of all utility rebate programs, and then the constantly changing these standards and requesting and demanding that the industry recertify. I mean, someone's got to come out and say, "Hey, you guys, the lumens per watt metric was a disaster. It causes all kinds of problems." And of course, Devin has a report on that. Are we going to move this thing forward all the way till the end until we get the answers, Matt?
I hope so. I'm in favor of it. You know, I think that we care about our manufacturers. You know, as distributors, we care about our manufacturers. We have good relationships with them, and if they're stretched thin because they have to spend all this money for accreditation every time that the DLC decides they need to, well, that cost gets passed down to us, and then that gets passed down to our customers. And for what? For what? That's what we want to know. For what? If it's a good reason, I'd like to know what it is.
Give it to us.
Give it to us.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
you know, they're not the DLC isn't even recognized as an accredited testing agency or like an authoritative source for information about the solid state lighting industry. So why should we have them be in charge of this?
Uh-huh.
This doesn't make a lot of sense.
Hmm.
And yeah, so
I
might be
shipped.
oversharing here.
Yeah, no, you're doing fine. I shipped a skid of light bulbs, fluorescent tubes. Okay, Greg, from to a customer. A skid.
Oh,
Yeah, nice order, right? I paid $600 in eco fees to product care from the manufacturer.
so you lost some money on that deal.
Not quite, but I mean, man, that was a
Oh, well,
serious hit that jumped up right at
$600.
the last minute, and so there's like this
Wow.
confusion with these eco fees that are coming in, and so we wanted some answers from Product Care, and you sent a letter to Product Care, who operates in Canada and the United States, asking them some simple questions. And did they get back to you?
No, no. And again, Mike, we just want some answers. We want some clarity. We think we deserve it. We think we're owed it. And why aren't these people getting back to us? If everything's above board, you know, if I learned this a long time, if you're living in a long time ago, if you're living in the light, there's nothing to hide.
Mm.
Let the light shine, baby, because I got nothing to hide. You know, I might make some mistakes. I'll own up to them. But if I'm trying to do things secretly, I don't want the light anywhere near me. And so, if you're above board, let us shine. Let us shine, and be open with us. I mean, we're open with them. So I don't know. I just there's some warning lights that go off in my brain when you ask for some relatively simple answers and you're met with radio silence. That, and I'm not saying they're doing anything shady, but we want to know. We want them. Something seems shady. I'll be honest. So we want to know. We want to know what's going on, and we'll be fair. I think we're fair people,
Hmm.
but we're also trying to stick up for the little guys, which is all of us.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
what I have to say about that.
I think you got to go to keystonetech.com. That's KEYSTONETECH.com for the big easy Greg Eric.
That's right. And you guys heard it there. A big part of how Matt's relationship with him came about was from Nailed. Me as well. Mike, you as well. They're a great Nailed member, and that's how they got a lot of business from the three of us, including, the other 78 or 87 other distributors that are part of it. But you got to be part of Keystone. You got to also come to our convention. That's a big thing. We'll talk about this stuff there. That's September 22nd through 24th, but we'll dive more into it, and it's way better in person. So do that.
If you got light bulbs in a warehouse, man, nailed.org is your association. We support the independent lighting distributor. That's what we do. That's what Matt's talking about. Whether it's employee training, whether it's industry issues, whatever it is, join our committees. You learn so much on the committees to see how the industry works. And you know what's hilarious? I was just, my customer service manager resigned. So I'm sort of kind of dividing that job up while we look for someone else. So it's like, here I am dealing with a $75 order on Amazon, and then I'm talking about the policies of the lighting industry. But this is where we are. We distributors are at the front lines of the lighting industry. We're right in front of the customers. We're right in front of the contractors. We're there, and our knowledge needs to be respected, which is why you should join us. Go to naild.org. Thank all of you for listening. Bye for now.